Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Village of Great Neck Plaza. For those of you who have not been here before, we welcome you. My name is Ted Rosen, and I'm the Deputy Mayor. And I'm very happy to welcome you here on behalf of our Mayor, Gene Selander, and the other members of the Board of Trustees of the Village. We are happy to present this program, and we are very happy that you are here today. Those of you who have attended our poetry programs in the past may know that this is the second year that we moved it up to 12 o'clock, and hopefully we're able to have more people join us by doing that. And from looking around the room, I think that's probably, that objective has been achieved. As we have stated previously, previous poetry celebrations, we in the Village of Great Neck Plaza believe that government is and should be involved in many different things, including, very importantly, supporting the arts. Here in our village, we have tried to do that in various ways, including public art throughout the village, art exhibits in the village hall, such as the beautiful pieces of artwork that you see around you, some of which have just gone up in the last half an hour. So we're very current.
Tell them Suzanne Posner.
Yes, our artist is right here, Suzanne Posner, and we thank you. We also have summer concerts on Tuesday nights in the summertime. And for those of you that are not familiar with that, we invite you to join us on Iolpe Park on Grace Avenue. We also, of course, have this annual poetry program during the Poetry Month of April. This program is a very important part of the way that we try to support the arts, and in particular to celebrate poetry. As we have said in the past, and as we like to say, Great Neck Plaza is a poetry village. Maybe we're the only village that can make that claim, or does make that claim, and we're proud of that. And we're able to do that primarily, entirely because of Carolyn Raphael, who is our poetry coordinator. Probably we are the only village in the world that has a poetry coordinator. And we're very happy to say that and have that person in that position. Without Carolyn, none of this would have happened. Carolyn, as most of you know, is a poet and a champion of poetry. Our village's promotion of poetry has been accomplished in a variety of ways over the years. First, we ran a poetry series called Poetry Sundays that features such poets as Tom Dish, X.J. Kennedy, and Rena Espelot. And was it Tom Dish that read from the witness stand?
And made you swear him in.
Yes, he was here right in this room. He saw it was a courtroom, and he thought it was appropriate that he be sworn under oath. And we did that, and he read his poetry right there from the witness stand. This is a courtroom, by the way. We then introduced a program called Poetry in the Plaza, which posted a different poem throughout the village, both on outdoor signposts as well as in the lobby of the village hall and in the waiting room of the Great Neck Long Island Railroad train station. And now we are celebrating our 8th annual Great Neck Plaza Poetry Contest Awards Day as a way to celebrate and to commemorate Poetry Month. I would like to extend my own sincere thank you to Carolyn for all that she has done to bring poetry to our village. And as I said before, without Carolyn's guidance, expertise, and passion, none of this would have ever happened. So at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce our mayor, Gene Selander, for welcoming remarks.
Good morning or good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. It's wonderful to see a bigger crowd, and I think you're absolutely right, Ted. Moving this to 12 noon, I think is good. It's great to have brunch, and I want to thank Carolyn myself because Carolyn, you are the one that's led this group and been the driving force. But without Deputy Mayor Ted Rosen's idea to bring it here, this all wouldn't have not come to fruition. So let's give a round of applause to Deputy Mayor Rosen. Thank you for your continued support and helping the village move forward in cultural arts, and we do value having all these activities, and we put a special emphasis on making sure we're well-rounded, not just government, but having programs such as this, our other cultural arts programs. It's all very important. So thank you all for coming. I'd also like to thank, of course, Carolyn Raphael. Thank you, Caroline. It's a pleasure working with you. You're very easy to work with. Such a pleasure. And always coming up with new ideas, thinking out of the box. So thank you, Carolyn. I'd also like to thank our judge for this year, George Green. Thank you very much. I know it's a lot of effort to come up with the winning poet. And I'd like to thank all the poets who are here. Thank you for your contributions, your great poems. I look forward to hearing them. It's really a unique way to understand your poems when you read them out loud, and I value being here and hearing them out loud. Also, Nancy Solomon from Long Island Traditions, that's where you send the check. Her organization, which is a nonprofit organization in Port Washington, she's been the one that's helped us from an administrative standpoint. So I'd like to thank Nancy, who couldn't be here today, but she certainly is another person that's helped make this program go along. And Public Access Television, thank you. Matt Kavanaugh's here taping us, and Public Access is recording this, which will be cablecasted at a future date on both Cablevision and Verizon Fios. So thank you, Public Access Television. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Carolyn Raphael or Ted Rosen, so we can hear some of your wonderful poems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And now I would like to introduce Carolyn Raphael. Carolyn retired from the English department at Queensborough Community College, the City University of New York, after more than 30 years in teaching. Her poems have appeared in journals including Long Island Quarterly, The Lyric, Oberon, Measure, and Blue Unicorn. Carolyn was on the short list for the 2014 Able Muse Book Award, and she was a finalist for the 2014 Richard Wilbur Award. Carolyn's chapbook, Diagrams of Bittersweet, was published by Summers Rocks Press in 1997, and her poetry collection, The Most Beautiful Room in the World, was published by David Robert Books in 2010. Her collection, Dancing with Bare Feet, was published by Kelsey Books White Violet Press in early 2016. And a chapbook, Grandma Poems, Not Too Sweet, was published by Kelsey Books Aldrich Press in 2017. As I said before, Carolyn is the poetry coordinator of our village. Carolyn chooses a poem each month for Poetry in the Plaza, which places poems on local bulletin boards, very similar to what Poetry in Motion does with respect to placing poems on the subways. Carolyn also coordinates the contest, which brings us here today, the annual Great Neck Plaza Poetry Contest. I would also like to announce and to invite all of you to attend Carolyn's upcoming reading, which will be 1 week from this coming Thursday, April 26th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Carolyn will be reading from her new book, Grandma Poems, Not Too Sweet, and that will take place at the main branch of the Great Neck Library, 159 Bayview Avenue, right here in Great Neck, with an open mic to follow. For anyone who does not know where that is, you can ask me after the program. I'll be happy to explain how to get there, or you can go on to our website, the village website, www.greatneckplaza.net, for directions to the main branch of the Great Neck Library. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce the poetry coordinator of the village of Great Neck Plaza of the state of New York, of the United States of America, my neighbor and my friend, Carolyn Raphael.
Thank you, Ted, and thank you, Jean. You can't pay for an introduction like that, I got to tell you. That's a little bit over the top. Thank you so much. Welcome to Poetry Month. It's more like March than April, but we'll make believe it's April. And to our 8th Plaza Poetry Contest Awards reading. As Matthew Zapruder says, a good poet, in his book, Why Poetry, quote, I try to make the argument that it is not only possible, but necessary to preserve a free space inside oneself for imagination, end quote. Perhaps imagination is even more vital in these trying days, and poetry opens the door. And you've met the two people who keep the poetry door open in our village, Mayor Sellender and Deputy Mayor Rosen, and they already thanked the other people, so I don't have to talk about that. I do want to add Sharon Strongen. If you look at your pretty program, you'll see that she set the winning poem, Judy Turek's poem. Do you like the setting? Isn't it pretty? Did you notice that it has those jewels that you talk about? Oh, I love that setting. She's a good artist, so I wanted to thank her. And of course, George Green, our judge. I was asked to read a poem to show you that I belong here too. And I just want to read a poem from my grandma book because this one is important to me. It's called Telling the Kids About World War II. There was a war. No, not with action heroes like Captain America, but real ones. Men who had a single superpower, courage. Grandpa Larry was 3 when war was declared. His father was too old to be a soldier, but he grew a victory garden in his yard. Tomatoes, strawberries, string beans, cucumbers, squash. His family ate the vegetables he grew, so most of the canned ones could be sent to soldiers. When 20 million people planted gardens on rooftops and in empty lots, it helped to keep us fed, and we were helping too. The rationing of food began when I was 1 year old in 1942. This meant that everyone in a family received a ration book with colored stamps to buy a certain amount of food each week. There were 3 of us before my sister was born. Come look inside this woven pouch. These are our ration books from 1943. One says, if you don't need it, don't buy it. My mother signs her age as 27, my father 35, and I am 2. My ration book says, occupation, child. These blue stamps were for vegetables, soup, and fruit, frozen, canned, or dried, and baby food. Each person was allowed 48 points a week. Canned pears cost 21 points, canned corn 14, but soup cost only 6. My mother had to choose wisely. The red stamps are almost gone. They were for meat and butter, fats and oils. People recycled fats, rubber and steel, but also paper and cans, as we do now. Speaking of now, as you eat your Cheerios tonight, when you are hungry after dinner, before you go to bed, think of the days when your great-grandmother counted points and planned meals carefully to make sure that the food would last her little family for the week. I heard we always had enough to eat. Thank you. Of course, there would be no contest without our judge, George Green, and I want to tell you some of his achievements so I can watch him blush. George Green's book of poems, Lord Byron's Foot, won the New Criterion Prize in 2012 and the Poets Prize in 2014. His work has appeared in various journals and anthologies, including Poetry 180 and 180 More Poems, The Best American Poetry 2005 and 2006, the Swallow Anthology of New American Poets, and Bright Wings, an illustrated anthology of poems about birds. Green grew up in Western Pennsylvania, but has lived for over 3 decades in Manhattan's East Village. He teaches at Lehman College, CUNY in the Bronx. In 2014, he received an award for literature from the American Academy of Arts and Letters. So now you know why he's our judge, George. I do want to say one more thing. He's a wonderful reader, and he's going to read a couple of his poems for you. Lucky people.
Thank you to Mayor Sellender and Deputy Mayor Rosen. I feel like I'm going to be sentenced. It wouldn't be the first time. Okay. Let me say something about the winners. Evelyn Kendall, am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Falling into water. What I liked about this one is I can't start speaking publicly without becoming congested. It's what Philip Larkin said about Louis MacNeice, that he always brings the kite down safely. All right? It's very important, and I thought in this poem the kite was brought down very well. And Marvin Illman, it was like a Greek frieze or something in Athens with the Petrarchan beloved, heartless, and the boy bicyclist. It was very, very good. And now, am I doing it in the right order? Oh, and Sybil Bank, that was a wonderful poem with wonderful, an image that I would like to steal, but I won't be able to. And Mr. Alex Edward Boudre, this poem was as light as a leaf, but it opened and closed like an old antique golden pocket watch. It clicked open and clicked shut in such a way that I was dazzled by it. And the winner, Judy Raffaella Turek, Five Broken Rings. This just hit me as magical in a way that a fairy tale or the Arabian Nights would hit me as magical. And also I was very moved by the kindness of the jeweler, which she didn't ruin by playing a note on their violin at all. It was just sort of like, this is what happened next, and it was very moving. And anyhow, now I'm going to read some poems here. And if I'd known I was going to be on television, I would have chosen different poems. But this is what I feel like reading today, all right? I can't believe it. I'm sorry. Teaching Hamlet. Does anybody have a Halls or anything like that? A lozenge? I just can't believe it. I can't stand up at an event because I'm here that I'm congested. Oh, great. Thank you so much. Forgive me.
No, it's okay.
Water. I have water here. Okay, the first one, now 500 years ago, 2 years ago was the 500th birthday, or we celebrate the death day on the 23rd, both, of Shakespeare. And I was commissioned to write 3 poems about Shakespeare, on Shakespearean themes. I'm going to read 2 of them. The first one is called Teaching Hamlet with DVDs and Downloads. Now, in the classroom now, we have all this technology. We have a big screen, computers, we're streaming, we're YouTubing, and we've got CDs. And my students who won't read and won't study and who can't write, they will watch TV, all right? So it's good to use this technology. And this is about teaching, the title is Teaching Hamlet with DVDs and Downloads. I keep them off the Gibson and the Branagh by ruthlessly critiquing certain scenes. Olivier won an Oscar and they yawn, hating the way he minces in his tights and codpiece. Nicol Williamson, it's like I know his Hamlet. He bartends at the Ives and reads Sestinas at an open mic. The Burton, he asses about, vulgar and mannered. So says John Gielgud, who directed him. And Jacoby's too fluttery and unbuttoned. Maybe it really is impossible, as Hazlitt said it was, even for Kemble. The Gielguds on CD, magnificent. I'll teach soliloquy as aria. At least Mel Gibson's Hamlet has cojones, opines a scholar. Yes, but Mel is short on princeliness and lacks the haunted aspect. I show the ghost again, Olivier, and emphasize the preternatural. The ghost is real. It's not brain chemistry. And though he dawdles, Hamlet must obey. The king's provoked. Ophelia drowns herself. Royal cadavers pile up on the stage. Good night, sweet prince. Your dynasty's kaput. That's what you get for gabbing with a ghost. Horatio even tries to kill himself. I read King Claudius by Prince Cavafy. And all worked up, I talk about the ghost that drove Day Lewis off the stage mid-scene. And off the stage, so now it seems, forever. Now, I don't know, Daniel Day-Lewis was playing Hamlet, and in the ghost scene, he saw the ghost of his father, the poet C. Day-Lewis, and ran in terror off the stage and didn't finish. The understudy had to come out and finish their performance. And Daniel Day-Lewis has never been on stage since then, all right? And now he's quitting movies, supposedly. I don't know why, I just got nominated for the Oscar, right? Okay, here's the Shakespeare one. Listening to Ophelia's mad scene, recorded by Ellen Terry in 1911. Now, I have the CD of ancient Shakespeare recordings, and you can imagine how they sound, right? Listening to Ophelia's mad scene, recorded by Ellen Terry in 1911, she does sound like she just got out of Bellevue, lost in the park and singing in her slippers. Or worse, a mother freezing on a lifeboat, crooning a lullaby to her dead child. You hear Ophelia's wantonness as well. What Dr. Foreman said, 1502, of female lunatics. If they get loose, they'll climb up naked on the roof and cry, "Come kiss me," to the standers-by below. Well, Ellen kissed her friends prodigiously and hugged her fellow players on the stage, influencing Victorians to touch each other more and more. And Henry James deplored her onstage tenderness in Scribner's. Now travel back a century, Mr. James, when patrons could find seating on the stage, and foppish troops of Romeos would crowd the tomb of Mrs. Cibber, mad to have her Juliet expire in their arms. And what of Woofington, who played the whole part of Cordelia clasped around the waist by some besotted fan? She dragged him on from scene to scene as if he played a role, her gaping, parasitical appendage. A comforter, perhaps, picked up in France? Now I'm congested because I'm on television, all right? All right. Edgar Allan Poe had a sister, all right? Rose Poe, all right? Rose Poe. Rose Poe was homeless after Richmond fell. I have to say that this isn't I should never say this, but I have to say this is in blank verse that's absolutely correct, all right? Otherwise, you'll just think I'm reading a short story, all right? I mean, every pentameter line, there's no substitutions, blah, blah, okay? Rose Poe. Rose Poe was homeless after Richmond fell, abandoned by the millionaire Mackenzies, whose ward she'd been for over 50 years. She spent her days down at the railroad depot, trying to sell some faded photographs of her unhappy brother, Edgar Allan, now long deceased, the author of The Raven. His signature was forged across the portraits in Rose's perfect hand. She had for years taught penmanship to Richmond's finest daughters at the Mackenzie's Girls' Academy. She played piano also and gave lessons, but many thought that she was rather dim, including Edgar. She would sit up front when Edgar read his poems or gave a talk, but then he'd tease her cruelly afterwards, mocking the way she dressed and wore her hair, and remonstrating snappishly with her. Her benefactors, too, could be unkind. She had her room, her place at tea and table, but they ignored her when she spoke, forgetting at times to introduce her to their guests. She was a small and wren-like creature, Rose, and she'd lost all her teeth in middle age. And this embarrassed her so keenly that, increasingly, she kept herself apart. When Lee retreated west to Appomattox that spring, Rose Poe was left to stumble down deserted boulevards and neighborhoods that fires and explosions had destroyed, places she no longer recognized, they were so rubble-strewn. She couldn't sleep, not in the overcrowded rectories. And so she skulked around the homeless camps alone, avoiding other indigents whom she disdained as her inferiors, and always on the lookout for a place where she'd feel safe. Afraid of scavengers, of convicts, dogs, deserters, drunks, and slaves now freed, she hid herself in alleyways which fear would people with a million phantoms. So helpless and forsaken, terrified and hiding like a cat, Rose passed her nights, a vagrant pauper in the conquered South. Many of her aristocratic students were desperate too, and busy writing letters to friends and relatives. Writing in such a lovely hand, for Rose had taught them well. Letters that pled for hidden jewels and heirlooms, anything they could possibly sell or barter to put some staples into empty cupboards. For some were widows now with hungry children, and some had husbands home with crippling wounds, or husbands home irascible and idle, whittling sticks and moping in their yards. On Sundays after church, Rose would accost acquaintances and beg them frantically to let her come with them and sit a spell. Oh God, what have I done? Some decent Christians took their turns relenting, though usually her visits were a trial. Rose strove so hard to please, reciting verse, and if they were unfortunate enough to have a Steinway in their parlor, well, Rose Poe could bang out hymns all afternoon. Eventually, of course, they'd make her stop. But then she'd pray enthusiastically, not giving them a chance to interrupt, chanting her supplications, crazed like some mysteriarch who'd fallen from the moon and landed accidentally in Virginia. An unacknowledged ogress, Rose Poe, the solar emblem of the ruined town. Okay, one more, but it's in 3 parts. It's not that long, though. Okay, hold on. I'll take this out. This is called art movies. It's about 3 movies that are about artists. The first one is Lust for Life, 1956, Vincent Minnelli. Lust for Life. I learned how artists act from Lust for Life, that movie where Kirk Douglas plays Van Gogh. Refuse to get a job. That's how you start. And then you have to mutilate yourself, of course. How else could decent art be made or even contemplated? Cut off your nose, cut off your face, drink coffee all day long. And if the crows keep cawing in the corn, just shoot yourself, and that will shut them up. I learned a lot. I knew I was an artist, but critics thought the movie was just kitsch. How could you play that fag? Duke Wayne asked Kirk. Rembrandt. Now that's 1936, Alexander Korda. It seems much older. It's a very creaky movie. It seems older than 1936. Rembrandt. Quoting the King James Version constantly, he's someone that you just can't help respecting. And Gertrude Lawrence is in this. Too bad she didn't live to do The King and I on film, for after all, the I was written for her. But she'd have been too old by then, and Deborah Carr was prettier and younger. Carr would have got the part, I can assure you. Younger and prettier is always better, especially at the Met, where really hot and slender, cute sopranos rule this year. In poetry as well, it's obvious. The girls are chosen for their jacket photos. The guys all look like they sang in hip and groovy bands. But Rembrandt's models, no, they just ain't hot, especially Saskia. How sweet that he's played by Charles Laughton. Maybe too sweet. How kind was Rembrandt really? He wouldn't loan me money, I don't think. And I'd have helped him gladly if I could. He knew vicissitudes. He calmed himself. He painted Jesuses we can believe in. And the last one is The Agony and Ecstasy, 1965. Carol Reed, Rex Harrison as the Pope, Charlton Heston as Michelangelo. Now, one time, a couple weeks after I read this once, a friend came up to me and said, you know, I watched that movie, The Agony and Ecstasy. It was terrible. I said, I wrote a poem about it. I didn't tell you to watch it. You know? Anyhow, The Agony and the Ecstasy. I learned a lot from this one, too. You have to wreck completely your first fresco. Next, you head up to the mountaintop and see the Sistine Chapel ceiling in the clouds. And then you're on your back in agony. The ecstasy is when the Pope goes back to bed. When will you finish it, he asks 1,000,000 times. When will you finish it? Charlton, way up there on the scaffolding, painting with chocolate pudding so that when it falls into his mouth, it's pleasurable. You're fine with this, except you don't like Charlton. A charioteer, okay. A genius, no. Who do you want, you snob? Peter O'Toole? Ben-Hur was good. Maybe a little long. Do you know that the author of Ben-Hur, Lew Wallace, was a Union general and later governor of New Mexico? The thing is, no one lived there then. Nobody. He was the governor of maybe 12 or 13 guys. The governor of nothing. When will I finish it, Your Holiness? I'm thinking I could make a little skylight by banging my head against the ceiling hard. Thank you. Oh, wait. I've got my book here, and it's a fire sale. Price is slashed. Thank you again, Karen.
You're very welcome. He's a wonderful poet and a very delightful reader. In fact, I may ask you, Evelyn, hi, Evelyn didn't come, did she? Oh, you did come. I'm so glad. I was going to ask somebody. I'm so glad you're here, Evelyn. Good. Okay, and I also really enjoyed your blank verse. I like to write in blank verse, too. Lovely. Let's start with our first honorable mention, and this is in alphabetical order because George chose them equally. Our first honorable mention is Marvin Illman, who won first prize in our contest last year for his poem, The Girl Up There. Marvin Illman taught for 50 years. He has given 60 lectures on literature, most recently two at Malloy on Hamlet. You have to talk to George later, right? And John Steinbeck. Mr. Illman is a produced playwright, a published author, and a prize-winning poet who won first prize, as I said, in last year's poetry contest here. He leads writing workshops at both Barnes & Noble in Coral Place and at the Center for Life Enrichment in Hewlett. My pleasure to introduce Marvin Illman.
Last year, the poem was Shutter Time. This year, it's The
that's
Girl
I
Up There. The professor mentioned that my poem resembles a Greek frieze. Hopefully, it's not Greek to you. That's what Casca told Cassius, the head conspirator in Julius Caesar, because he was asked to listen to Cicero. And Cicero was a very learned man. He spoke Greek. So it was literal. It was all Greek to me. Now when we hear it, it means mishmash. We're not quite sure. So this is The Girl Up There. The girl on the porch would look down on us, we thought. So we had to rise to the level of her put-down gaze by riding without hands, feet pumping the wheels, cycles of endless shows before the teen majesty of our desires, standing on the seat, turning over it, getting off and on, while the Schwinn careened down the block, a bronco that would yield to our hormonal rush. We could control the arc of our fun, but not evoke a smile, a nod, a sigh from the girl on the porch who stood, a queen of our hearts, viewing us disdainfully, while we, sad jokers, enthralled perhaps by the distance of longing, rode on to the realm of maybe.
Thank you, Marvin. Our second honorable mention is Evelyn Candell for her poem Falling into Winter. And I don't know if George mentioned, but not only, correct me if I'm wrong, Evelyn, you did that beautiful illustration for your poem, did you not? She's an artist as well, so that was hers too. Our second honorable mention is Evelyn Candell for her poem Falling into Winter. Evelyn is the author of 4 published poetry chapbooks, 2 won top awards. She teaches poetry at the Adult Center, Cumberland School. Her poems appear in many journals and anthologies. As one of the 3 poets, she gives readings and workshops throughout Long Island. Evelyn?
Yes, this the poem is short, but it's based on this photograph that I took outside my den window, and then placed the poem on the photograph. So, falling into winter. Gone the brilliant November days with brisk winds teasing branches, last yellow flags on neighbor's tree flirting beyond the fence. Gone the golden leaves and red, leaving naked boughs waiting for snow's covering. Today, winter's first snowfall, gray skies toss tiny flakes, confetti celebration for a new season, for mounds of crystals turning color to soft monochrome, white and shades of blue-gray, shadows define the days to come.
Thank you, Evelyn. You know, you should pass around the copy of the poem, do you? So they can see that pretty background. Is Sybil here? She's not.
She's coming.
I know, she always is. Would you like to read her poem? It's such a wonderful poem. The one on thoughts on being 83, since she's not here?
Pardon me?
Would you like to read, since Sybil is not here, would you like to read her
I
poem
have
for?
a copy of it.
Oh, I have it right here. Can't get out that easily, I have it right here. Do you mind?
Sure, I'll read it.
Okay, let me see where it is,
Are you sure you wouldn't like to read it?
if I can find it. Ah, there it is. I'll read it. I love it. Our third place winner is Sybil Bank for her poem Thoughts on Being 83. Sybil Bank is an award-winning prose and poetry writer, member of the Port Washington Poets Circle and of the three poets, of whom Evelyn Candell is one, who present poetry programs in Long Island libraries and elsewhere. Her work appears in Bard's Initiative, Long Island Sounds, Mobius, Oberon, Performance Poets, Nassau County Poet Laureate Society Review. She is also published in Forgiveness Anthology, Pomenac Interwoven, Whispers and Shouts, and Writing Outside the Line. Her book, River Over Stones, drawing mainly on the wellspring of her life in South Africa, was published in 2014. I'm doubly sad that she's not here. First of all, I'd like her to read her poem, and secondly, my South African accent is not very good, so I'll just read it straight. But it does enhance her beautiful words. Thoughts on Being 83. Dinner plate flies from my hands, crash lands on kitchen counter, smashes a celadon bowl, plummets to white tiled floor, scatters turquoise, indigo fragments, forming a new Gaudi church spire for the Familia Sagrada. Oh, how I wish I was in sun-baked Barcelona, not breaking plates and bowls, but breathing modernista buildings, eating tapas in outdoor cafes, dancing the flamenco. But then I might tip my wine glass while reaching for the olives. It happened to me just yesterday. I made my own sizzly spatter painting on my new white tablecloth. My words are taking vacations. Names of authors, books, movies slide away like a boat slips from its mooring, sails off, only to return the next day like a belated birthday card. This is why I meditate. Better to visualize than capsize. Our second place winner is Alex Edwards Bourdrais for his poem As They Fall. Currently working in direct support of medically fragile people with severe developmental disabilities, Alex is a former teacher of theater and French literature. Following his 22 years in the classroom, he spent 5 years in corporate public relations and 10 years in fundraising and alumni relations for independent secondary schools. He is a member of St. Paul's United Methodist Church in Northport, where he serves as publicity coordinator, and he is involved in various community theater projects as an actor and director. Writing has always been central to his personal and professional life. Alex?
Well, I must say I'm honored to be here, and thank you very much. This poem was written kind of in my head as I took a break from raking leaves. And it's called As They Fall. Imagine each leaf a life, or part of one, each one rife with colorful fragility and desperate agility. Or imagine each a thought, luminous, lazy, and fraught, a twisting, aimless, silent cry against an endless azure sky. Destiny postponed, in soft, invisible swirls they waft, somersault, and catch the light, then settle gently out of sight. So I do work with adults with developmental disabilities. And in a poetry workshop that I attend, one of the prompts was to write a poem from the point of view of someone who loves you. And I mulled that one over, and I came up with Joel, one of the adults with disabilities with whom I work every day. So this is from Joel's point of view. I love it when you come in. I've been waiting for it. Something feeling funny and good inside me raises my arm. I say, "Hi, Alex. Hi, Alex." You say, "How are you, Mr. Joel, Mr. Joel, Mr. Joel, Joel, Joel?" I say, "Good." I look at you, I feel my eyes get wide, my cheeks get high, my teeth show, my head bobs, I nod, I rock, I love it all. I say, "I have to make a doo-doo. I love you singing doobie-doobie-doo. You help me wash and dry, not dry and wash. You help me soap my hands. I love you singing rub-a-dub-dub, joking with the wrong song, 3 men in a shower." I laugh. I say, "No, that's not right." You say, "You're right, it's left." You say to turn the water off. I love it, I do it. I say, "I'll turn the light off too." You say, "I'll turn the light off 3. I laugh. You hold my belt, I hold your hand. You keep me up. 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4. Step back to my chair. I sit. I say, "I want to watch Willy Wonka." You say, "Yes." You say, "Sure." You say, "Can you wait?" I say, "Yes," and so I wait. I don't love it, but I wait because I love you singing silly Oompa Loompa songs, telling me that they are actors pretending to be little not real people. I love that. I ask why. You ask why not. I say, "I am real." You say, "You're right you are, my friend." You watch with me, you hold my hand. We see a lot of different colors I don't see at home. You say, "I know." I say, "I know." I know a lot, I say. I know you like me. You look softly, your eyes are wide, you listen hard. It's hard sometimes to know the words I need to say just why I love you. So this one was written from my point of view to someone I love. All of you. From the back of your head to the depth of your heart. From the cool ocean breeze to the warmth of our bed. Through the darkness of strife and the brilliance of life. From the spark when we met to beyond all time yet, all of you. Every place and every moment shared quickens my yearning soul in quietude's soft embrace. So we've just endured a month and a half of mostly winter in early spring. So this actually was written responding to a prompt from Judy, who facilitates a workshop that I attend in Farmingdale, and the workshop session was canceled, so she sent out this thing and says, "Oh, why don't you write about this kind of thing, all this snow when it shouldn't be here." So I wrote this. Winter in early spring. Winter in early spring pours a slow whitewater froth upon the land and all its dormant growth. Still, around the rocks and roots of trees, shrouding the bones of bushes and branches bent, resigned, yet still content to leave their resurrection to another day and rest a while in delicate crystalline clouds. Be patient, there is no rush. Tomorrow's sun will move the earth, already soft and warm enough to melt and drink this lingering kiss of death, the source of long-awaited torrents of life. More time? Any more time? One more. Okay, one more. Let's take a look here. I like this one. This one is, I have two brothers. They are both older. They are both just a little shorter than I am. And one of their wives, my sister-in-law, kind of laughed one day and said, when you three guys are together, you're like reeds blowing in the, because we all sort of do this. So it's, we're not together that often, right? So when we're together, she compares us to reeds swaying. Three brothers, 6, 1, 2, and 3. The first gray, the second graying, the third a stubborn sandy brown. Conceived in passion randomly, scattered on the earth, cast away, swept up in waves, haphazardly transplanted on the shifting dunes. Resilient through each bygone storm, the reeds now bend in breezes soft with whispering forces that form a rhythm of unspoken love. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I'm so glad that he came back to read some more because we could hear that very pretty voice of yours a little longer. Thank you. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce our first place winner, J.R. or Judy Turek, for her poem 5 Broken Rings. Bard's Laureate 2013-15, Judy has been moderator of the Farmingdale Creative Writing Group for 21 years. She is the recipient of 2 pushcard nominations and Nassau County, Suffolk County, and New York State Senate proclamations for her dedication to poetry, and was named a 2017 New York State Woman of Distinction. She is co-editor of the poetry anthologies Whispers and Shouts and Young Voices, and author of the full-length poetry collections A is for Almost Anything, Imagistics, and They Come and Go. My great pleasure to introduce Judy Turek. J.R.
Wow. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor. I'm honored, and especially, thank you, Professor. I'm twice as honored because the announcement of this came on what would have been my father's 83rd birthday. So, and my father is the R in J.R. Turek. So. 5 Broken Rings. Christmas is jingling just around the corner. No dollars in my budget for gifts when I'm bequeathed a ring. One that shimmers in golden Yule light. Fiery alexandrite stone sparkles in purple and blue, green and red. This ring sings hymns to me to believe in wondrous mysteries. The ring doesn't fit. Fear of it slipping off my finger defines me. Can't wear it. Can't afford to size it. I say a prayer for help. And there, in my dresser drawer, tucked under spare buttons and stopped watches, 5 broken rings. Bands cracked, stones missing, gold scuffed and marred, all pre-packed in a plastic bag for a trip to the jeweler that never happened. Now, I hug them, hope they will rescue me in my need. Jeweler tisks at each missing gem and broken setting, says he can't fix them. A little saddened, I agree, and then quickly ask if I could barter the price of resizing. He smiles at my new ring, measures it, weighs the 5 broken rings, shakes my hand, gives me $80 in cash. He'll melt the old gold, rebirth 5 broken rings into a new creation. My new ring fits perfect. Off to buy gifts, faith confirmed, yes, I believe in miracles. Thank you. And my 20-minute read is really only like 14 and a half minutes. I'm actually going to read from 2 of my collections. The first is called Imagistics. The first half is picture poems, emblematic, concrete poems, and the second are form poems. And so, one of my themes will be that I collect dogs, shoes, and poems. So, this is one of my dogs on paper. Dog. Dog spots mar our lawn. Dog paws, stair trades worn. Dog days, furry pool. Dog kisses, slick, sweet drool. Dog smudges cloud glass doors. Dog hair carpets all our floors. Dog body crowds our bed. Dog demands to be fed. Dog barks at everything. Dog thinks that he is king. Dog treat, dog toy, dog food, dog bone. Dog makes our house a home. Okay. And somehow I fear we are all going to require one of these later today from the forecast. Hold umbrellas. Steely spines that collapse and slide on a metal rod. Some end in a curved hook. Plastic, cloth, or nylon, stretched dome-like. Formed protection from foul weather, falling rain, snow, sleet. A skin screen from heat and sun for backyard decks, sandy beaches. Long enough to act as a cane. Modern styles compact for a purse. Ingenious design. I wonder when the bolt of idea struck to patent a handheld element protector. Was it perhaps the 40th day or the 40th night? Okay. So this is a drabble. I'm a little enamored of drabbles. They're 100-word pieces. Called Dorothy. Blame it on the shoes. 2 red sparkly sprites promising you the world. Skipping along with strange roadmates, tripping over fallen stalks of hay, skidding through drops of oil spills. Cowardly footprints no red palms could cover on a brick paved road painted garish yellow. Stop and think. Hey, for scarlet shoes. Forget this popsicle stick trip, I'm out of here. Back to Kansas cornfields. Good girl, walk away, save yourself. Take a trip to Topeka to pay less. Buy dozens of red shoes and never ever have to deal with that little strange man, Wizard My Patootie, behind the green curtain. Ode to Scary Pairs. The shoes in my closet are dangerous. If I put on a pair, they'll walk me down the steps, out the front door, and to the mall, where I'll surely buy another pair, and my closet will explode. The shoes in my closet are dangerous. Spiked heels sneer when left alone too long. Mules snore a decibel too loud. Peekaboo pumps sneak a peek at longing slingbacks and scowl. Clogs hate it when I play favorites, when I flip-flop, cater to rain, sleet, snow, when I put off taking them to Dominic, their god of heels and taps, who buffs them to a butter-soft patina. Sneakers crave their daily exercise, bitch when I cannot comply. Stilettos trapeze from their mesh hammocks, fall to the floor, moan to be picked up, coddled, crooned to before they're placed beside their mate. Ungrateful, they have no access to poison, silver bullets, switchblades. Though I adore them, the shoes in my closet are dangerous, and oh, how they hate it when I say I love to go barefoot. And this is one of those multi-talented poems, I guess. It's a drabble, so it's a 100-word piece, but it's also an emblematic one. And I remember as a kid, my grandmother had the owl clock where the tail would go back and forth, and so that's what it reminds me of. Called Watch. The clock, tick-tock. Hands turn, hours pass, one tick at a time. Second by second, wait a second. Wait! But these seconds won't stop ticking. 60 clicks to a minute, one click to a time, a minute, just a minute. Wait! But the minutes won't halt, won't hold, won't stay still. They tack on 60 times to build an hour, the pinnacle of a pyramid of time. Stack the seconds on the minutes. Watch the hours add up to a day. Days, weeks, months, years. Tick, time, talk, watch. A lifetime talks off in ticks. This book was a bear to put together. The two sections have 4 subsections and ampersand titles and all sorts of things. So when I did the next one, A is for Almost Anything, I thought, let's try something simpler. So this is 132 of my favorite poems, whose title begin with the letter A listed in alphabetic order. How simple. I've written a poem a day for 14 years. I have a lot of poems that start with A and B. And this is another drabble. I just love drabbles. A knock at the door. Avon? Amway. Not expecting company. House is a mess. Fuller Brush? Kirby Vacuum Salesman? Jehovah's Witnesses? Meter reader? Census takers? Bill collector? FTD florist? Prize letter said, I may have won $5 million. I won. I won. Knock, knock, knock. Toss dirty clothes downstairs, stuff paper piles under couch cushions, throw dishes and dishwasher. I won. I won. Hurry. Brush, hair, lipstick, mascara, evening gown, silver mules, grandma's diamond earrings. Knock, knock, knock. Brush teeth, gargle, chew a dozen Tic Tacs, spritz evening in Paris, scrub toilet, wipe sink, Windex mirrors, make bed, pop in Vivaldi CD. Knock, knock, knock. Woodpecker in oak tree. A tree grows. Center of a woman's closet floor. A shoe tree branches out. At the root base, spikes, hikers, and rainbow sneakers. Lower limbs suspend ballerina flats, moccasins, Oxfords, and lazy loafers. A trunk of 9 to 5 conservative heels ringed by pumps and calf leather, fabric, patent, and suede. The tree grows by season sales, balanced perfect platforms and wedges, sheltered by slingbacks and ankle straps, dazzled over by canopies of clogs, peep toes, and strippy stilettos. A forest of fur-capped mules and booties, beaded slides and jeweled thongs, a crown of trendy T-straps in metallic, velvet, satin, and lucite. Listen for the gasp as the door opens, the whispered pleas of pick me, pick me. Pairs flashing buckles, tapping toes, showing off the perfect match for your outfit, all waiting to leave the shoe tree for a healing outing, a brisk striding, a stretching stroll to the mall, all longing for the caress of an instep. I told you I like shoes. I have shoes. And this is from my soulmate. Actually, 33 years in 2 weeks. We'll be married. And he does like this poem. Acoustically challenged. It's possible he's lost his hearing. Hard to say if he's deaf, so I employ patience. Repeat things twice and wait for a response, a reaction, something. When I get nothing, the third time becomes a shout. Lo and behold, a miracle occurs. His cochlea, eustachian tube, and stirrup work. His hammer hits anvil onto his tympanic membrane. His eardrum reverberates sound, and glory be, he can hear. Perhaps he thinks I suffer from a similar affliction because he yells, "I heard you the first time." I whisper a suggestion that in the future he respond, even with a grunt, so I know he heard me. In a lower whisper, I suggest a visit to an audiologist. A light comment that hearing aids these days are small, nearly undetectable, and a second shout, "I'm not deaf." And I wonder if it's true, and perhaps there's a switch he controls for selective hearing. There's another drabble. Affectionate. I found it hanging around my backyard. A stray, scruffy, in need of a bath, quiet, well-behaved, grateful. It was just me, so cooking a little extra was no problem. It was a he. He'd sit beside me on the patio bench, licking my hand long after he'd eaten the steak or chicken I hand-fed him. Those soulful eyes, I soon welcomed him inside. That's when I realized why he was a stray. Hogging the couch, belching, farting, demanding I get him a beer, I threw him out, told him to go back to his wife, that poor, poor woman. I picked things on the lighter side for today, so. And in honor of National Poetry Month, and yet without it. Poetry is the salt in the sea, an empty seat on a train, 2 ladybugs on a leaf. Poetry is the whole of a donut, the pitch of a piano, sand at the beach. Poetry is the sound of patience, the wick of a candle, feathers falling from a nest. Poetry is the moment inside a minute, the phasing of phrases, fragments of a fraction, the molecular structure of DNA without the N, a slivered glance, an unfinished sonata, a speck, a shard, the trace of an iota, a hole in my heart that leaks through my pen. Poetry is but a part, yet without it. And this is a timely poem. Annual Maelstrom. 'Twas the day of first warming, and all through our home termites are swarming. We weren't alone. We opened the windows, threw up each sash, hoping the wind blow would blow out this trash. They swarmed in the living room, through the kitchen, and then flew into the dining room and onto our den. My sister, how she cried, my brother, how he giggled, as we stood to the side watching a cloud that wriggled. They spelled out hello as they droned in our ear. Then they flew out the window, waving, "See you next year." April. It's April. Our front yard frosty disappeared months ago. Oh, if only. Where he stood sentinel over frigid mounds, now there are daffodils and hyacinths quenched by his melting. His accoutrements disappeared as well. his carrot nose carted off by a squirrel, his twig arms flighted by birds, but I wondered where his cardinal hat and scarf had gone until today. The first warm winds summoning me to inspect the gardens, assess ravages of winter's cruelty, and I see a crimson something in the crook of the dogwood. Pom-pom side down, the hat sat wreathed by twigs and leaves, the scarf wrapped like a bungee around limbs for stability, tassels waving me closer. Parents-to-be hovered on overhead wires while I crept closer, documenting the image to build a poem around. I think of Frosty and how his memory lives in a nest of flame-red yarn, reborn to warm baby birds in spring. And my last poem, At the Death of Winter. We watch from windows, wet with warming tears, see the cease of gales scourged on bitter land, witness bare limbs hang with humility. Have faith, Savior rains will fall, carry away agony of frozen gardens, quench roots of bone-dry beds, birth worms and bees to duty, heal hands of scarred stems, hold hope in a passionate embrace, encourage bulbs, bushes, trees to birth forth in choruses of Alleluia. Rejoice, arise in resurrection, behold a miracle, 5 pink blossoms on an azalea branch at the birth of spring. Again, thank you, and thank you all.
Thank you, Judy. That was really lovely. Thank you. We appreciate that. Before we start with the presenting of the proclamations and pictures and things like that, did Sybil leave? Oh, there she is. Sybil, would you like to read your poem in its original, lovely South African voice?
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. Always happy to be where there's poetry. And thank you, Judy. That was wonderful, as usual. Thank you. Thoughts on being 83. Dinner plate flies from my hands, crash lands on kitchen counter, smashes a celadon bowl, plummets to white tiled floor, scatters turquoise indigo fragments, forming a new Gaudi church spire for the Familia Sagrada. Oh, how I wish I was in sun-baked Barcelona, not breaking plates and bowls, but breathing modernista buildings, eating tapas in outdoor cafes, dancing the flamingo. But then I might tip my wine glass while reaching for the olives. It happened to me just yesterday. I made my own Sicily splatter painting on my new white tablecloth. My words are taking vacations. Names of authors, books, movies slide away like a boat slips from its mooring and sails off, only to return the next day, like a belated birthday card. This is why I meditate. Better to visualize than capsize. Losing accumulated possessions may be necessary, but for some, it is the record of a life. Stranger. Through the window, a prism of light caresses my grandmother's Russian silver, candlesticks stretching tall on the walnut table. She wraps them into socks at the bottom of her suitcase when she comes by boat to South Africa, escaping a ravaging Europe. In the new land, she wanders around the town square, gazes at curved bottles greened from ocean tides, books in faded leather covers, ivory teething rings, gleaming blue rosary beads, Jesus on the cross, next to Eastern European engraved goblets. She buys a small Sabbath wine cup, dreams of old longings, memories wakened, touches, looks, sees buyers bargain for objects that soothe their past experiences, like tasting of fruit in a faraway place. All this under brilliant blue skies, with aromas drifting from buckets of roses, buttercups, calla lilies, and more. Smells of strange guava fruit dare her to taste their pink insides. She pauses before woven baskets, stone sculptures of proud, full-lipped Africans, kings and queens, who too had lost everything in the capture of their lands. She weeps. This one we all can relate to, I think. It's about looking back. 2 fragments. I catch an image of myself in the window of a passing train, a carefree girl on her way to the beach, where she'll meet her friends on this brilliantly blue summer day. They will change into bathing suits, lay towels on hot sand, claim the spot as theirs alone. Dashing through low tide, they dive, swim, float in a paradise of beauty and calm, where nature's gifts are laid in a medieval feast, the buffet bounteous as the continuously replenishing waves. It seems so near. I smell the salty whip of wind, feel the hot beat of sun on my back. 68 years later, a melange of nostalgia. I tread carefully, move slowly into lapping waves. I cannot stop the tide of time. I never knew that hope could be so strong. Well, just this week there was a report in the New York Times about early female bicycle riders. So, just a stamp. I hold a small postage stamp of a contemplative Marcel Proust as he muses on the social mores of the turn of the century. Or has he only a moment ago dipped a Madeleine into his tea as he thinks of his 14 years devoted to remembrance of things past, which, by the way, I haven't read. Did try a few times, but settled for the tea and Madeleine instead. Through half-closed eyes, I conjure the cobbled Parisian streets, freighted with history, inhale the aromas of early morning mist as it rises on the Seine. Boats chug up the river. Soon the line will form outside the 1920s exposition, the Eiffel Towers touching the opening clouds. Steamy railway carriages with wide doors, extravagant feathers hats, glamoured with jewelled hatpins, long black silk skirts provocatively lift to show ankles. But wait, it's the unfolding of the Belle Epoque. Daring duels, questionable movies, ladies being photographed, painted, fated, dining at the Café de Paris, dancing with Colette. Women throw away their corsets, climb into scandalous trousers, play hockey, croquet, ice skate, ride bicycles, welcome lovers' kisses and more behind country ledgers. Oscar Wilde smiles as they demonstrate, emancipate, call for the vote, cajole for the vote, shout for the vote. Vive la France, égalité, liberté. Is that not pertinent at the moment? This is about a house in my neighborhood that nobody wants to buy. And this is how my feelings have changed towards it over this period of time. House. The house is an anomaly in its huge haughtiness and expectation. Neighbors sniff at its assumed importance, an emporium hovering in a simple street. Today, it bathes under a sharp periwinkle sky. Sterile snow splatters the roof tile like rice thrown at a wedding. The cream walls glow amber. The windows blink in chilly consternation. A house waiting to be cosseted, it gazes down at its instant green garden. Bold white hydrangeas flank ornate double door, like parents escorting a new bride. Carmine impatience shelter along a mountain boulder, secure and certain as a prospective groom. The house is, after all, just waiting for love. And this one is about my husband, who I see in the doorway at this very moment. It's called Husband. Sometimes he has a slight shamble to his walk. When did the road, the endless flow of ongoing shining, become dusty like an elephant's crevice skin? When waves lifted you like weightless light, ascending mountains of rush, foam and spray, hurtling you to the glistening strand, you shook off water like a satisfied seal after a lip-smacking fat fish catch. Now the sea, daunting in its high tide wakenings, rushes to your knees, throws you grappling the undertow, drunken seaweed snakes and crackling bits of stony shell. A letter returned after a tired journey, the bedraggled envelope black-stamped, address no longer known, like the dark bruise after your cataract surgery, when they brought you back to me, our dark, puffy winter coats waiting to be taken home. And here you are, my kind, excited man, alive and well, relieved that even after anesthetic, you know exactly where and who you are and who I am. The others, I still have time, no? Don't? One more. I had to actually think about this because it is really now Holocaust Remembrance Time, and it's about a visit to my father's birthplace. He was not involved in this, but many of his family were. Swedosai, Lithuania, 2002. A bone-thin horse struggles through mud. Squat, monotonous houses huddle. Bent women trudge with bundles of kindling. Grey-bearded men smoke on corners. The young have left. Chill wind skins through tangled root and shrub. Mass graves of those who screamed their hopeless prayers. Limp sun tires and dips. Morbid sky gives up on light. The lost past given to you like pieces of mosaic. Further away, a stone courtyard, bricks like newly baked loaves, set in a simple archway where serene angels fill golden cornices. Old women in thick stockings take leaves and rake, plant pansies where upright gravestones show names forever inscribed. My aunt once lived here. I show the woman her photograph. They shake their heads, point to the mass graves. Judah, one says. Some bones are anonymous. Thank you.
Thank you, Sybil. That was really lovely. Now I think we're ready for the presenting of the proclamations. And for that, we'll ask Mayor Selander and Ted Rosen to join us with the winners.
Our first proclamation issued by the mayor is for our poetry coordinator, Carolyn Raphael. And just the beginning of the proclamation, Office of the Mayor, Village of Great Neck Plaza proclamation. Whereas there emerge those outstanding individuals showing dedication and community spirit and who affect a lasting impact on the quality of life in our community and our citizens. And whereas the Village of Great Neck Plaza is proud to recognize those individuals who have rendered such significant contributions to the community. And whereas the Village of Great Neck Plaza wishes to pay tribute to Carolyn Raphael, now therefore be it proclaimed that you are being honored by the Village of Great Neck Plaza on the occasion of the 8th Annual Poetry Contest Awards Reading Day for all that you do to promote poetry in the plaza. We salute you for your tireless efforts and hereby proclaim Sunday, April 15th, 2018 as Carolyn Raphael Day in the Village of Great Neck Plaza.
Thank you, that was lovely. This is for our first place winner.
Office of the Mayor, Village of Great Neck Plaza, proclamation, whereas, and I'll skip part of it, there emerge those outstanding individuals showing dedication and community spirit and who affect a lasting impact on the quality of life in our community and our citizens. Whereas the Village of Great Neck Plaza wishes to pay tribute to J.R. Judy Turek, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Village of Great Neck Plaza congratulates you for being awarded first place in the 2018 Great Neck Plaza Poetry Contest for your poem, 5 Broken Rings. We are pleased to present this award to a truly gifted and talented poet. We salute you and wish you the best of luck in your future poetry endeavors. Signed by the Honorable Gene Sellender, April 15th, 2018.
And we have a check for $150 for your
Okay, our next proclamation, Office of the Mayor, Village of Great Neck Plaza, proclamation. Whereas the Village of Great Neck Plaza wishes to pay tribute to Alex Edwards Bordes, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Village of Great Neck Plaza congratulates you on being awarded second place in the 2018 Great Neck Plaza Poetry Contest for your poem, As They Fall. We are pleased to present this award to such a talented poet as you. We salute you and wish you the best of luck in your future poetry endeavors. Signed by the Honorable Gene Sellender, Mayor, April 15th, 2018.
And a winner of $75 for the second place.
And our next proclamation is to Sybil Bank. Whereas the Village of Great Neck Plaza wishes to pay tribute to Sybil Bank, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Village of Great Neck Plaza congratulates you on being awarded third place in the 2018 Great Neck Plaza Poetry Contest for your poem, Thoughts on Being 83. We are pleased to present this award to such a talented poet as you. We salute you and wish you the best of luck in your future poetry endeavors. Signed, the Honorable Gene Sellender, Mayor, April 15th, 2018.
And Sybil is
Sybil?
a $50 check for third place.
78, oh, 83.
And our next proclamation is being presented to Marvin Illman. Whereas the Village of Great Neck Plaza wishes to pay tribute to Marvin Illman, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Village of Great Neck Plaza congratulates you on being awarded honorable mention in the 2018 Great Neck Plaza Poetry Contest for your poem, The Girl Up There. We are pleased to present this award to such a talented poet as you. We salute you, and we wish you the best of luck in your future poetry endeavors. Signed, the Honorable Gene Sellender, Mayor, April 15th, 2018.
Thank you, Marvin. Lovely poem.
Congratulations.
And he's been a winner 2 years in a row.
Yes, yes. I didn't get a check for the girl up there, but I win because I got the girl down there.
And our final proclamation today is being presented to Evelyn Kendall. Whereas the Village of Great Neck Plaza wishes to pay tribute to Evelyn Kendall, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Village of Great Neck Plaza congratulates you on being awarded honorable mention in the 2018 Great Neck Plaza Poetry Contest for your poem, Falling into Winter. We are pleased to present this award to such a talented poet as you. We salute you, and we wish you the best of luck in your future poetry endeavors. Signed, the Honorable Gene Selander, Mayor, April 15th, 2018.
Congratulations, Daniel.
Congratulations.
Lovely poem.
Okay, the last part of today's program is the open mic, and a few people have signed up, and I'm going to ask Shirley if she wants to read. Do you want to read? No? Well, I just heard her give a lovely program at the main branch of the library on Edna St. Vincent Millay. I don't know if you've seen her read that, but it's a wonderful treat. I should have brought my Millay.
We always love your poetry, Shirley. Honored to have you here.
The first person who signed up to read is George Pafitas.
And the first poem I'm going to read, and the only one I'm going to read, I was told firmly, was, by the way, George, I want to thank you for your erudition with the poetry, and I think you ought to be commended for the selections and themselves. Thank you, George. Now, the poem I'm going to read is called, it's a poem about poetry, okay? And it's called The Tip of the Pencil. Consider the tip of the pencil. It gives us words in all their forms, in lead hard copy form. As when stars throw down their spears of water, and when we hear the lapping of the waves on the shore, and then wonder about why the woods are dark and deep. It's all in the tip of the pencil. After which we might want to consider looking like the innocent flower, but being the serpent under it, or even recognizing we are not that strength which in old days moved heaven and earth. It's all in the tip of the pencil. Along with the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, we wonder how the eagle clasps the crag with crooked hands, or how those sages standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of the wall. It's all in the tip of the pencil, especially since the best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity, and you should call it a problem. How would it work, a girl with a swan? However, reading it, one discovers in it, after all, a place for the genuine. It's all in the tip of the pencil. Thank you.
I wasn't prepared, but I had my book, trusty book with me. I was looking for the, okay. This is from the book title, it's called Rara Avis, which is rare bird, which I've always thought of myself as. It's about spring. Perhaps I'm becoming one of those rare birds who professes to hate the arrival of springtime, hate with a degree of passion bordering on suspect, hate that sharp musk of dormant hungers, the need to touch and be touched, believe and be believed, hate all those hapless believers clinging like eager aphids, willing to be swallowed with the flick of an agile tongue, seductive with false promises. Hate, hate all that blinding brightness, damn the presumptive light that expects, demands, worships, shows no mercy, refuses to blur an edge or soften a line. Hate, hate, hate the harsh frames of instant reflections, nearsighted, farsighted, short-sighted telephoto lens that sought you out, froze you, blinking, squinting, vulnerable, right up to the moment of being overcome. Oh, so deliriously overcome by the delicious greenness of a few blades of cocky young grass. Thank you all for wonderful presentations.
Beverly Fennick.
Thank you. This poem is really a celebration of the literature that I read as a child, and in particular of my favorite non-fictional character named Pippi Longstocking. So, here's the poem in praise of Pippi Longstocking. Almost orphan free, as heroines had to be, you roamed the world of my imagination when I, a shy, red-haired, freckled-faced naif, went sailing with you, pigtails blowing in the South Sea breeze. Mistress at 9 of your great estate, Villa Villaculla, your charmed pet, your man, you brought prowlers to their knees, hung bad boys on trees, circus queen, savior sailing the seas, apprentice pirate, princess Pipolata, an island your own. But I can't summon now what you once were to one mild in her wiles, wild in her musings, except this, reading you, Pippi, was pleasure immeasurable, plucked from island vines, you and I, long ago, together climbed. Thank you.
Just a very brief closing. I want to thank you all for coming to our 8th annual poetry contest reading. It's a pleasure not only to celebrate Poetry Month, but to celebrate it in a courtroom like this one, where art and poetry are on display, and where the jury always finds in favor of the arts. Thank you for coming.